right. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of the Total Health and Fitness Podcast. Really excited for you all to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you about the things that I love, health, fitness, wellness, mindset, how to be better, how to be better humans, how to be better people, how to live well, how to be happy, all the good stuff that comes with health and fitness. Really enjoy being able to talk to you all about it and provide you my perspective on what works best and how to get you to your goals or how to get you results that you're looking for. So, yeah, really excited about this episode. What I want to talk about today, I have a few things on the agenda. Um, First, want to talk about consistency. Why consistency is so important, and why my clients are probably tired of hearing me talk about it. We're gonna dive into that and just talk about delayed gratification and making the hard thing easy. Then I want to talk a little bit about I want to compare and contrast fat loss versus building muscle, and why sometimes you can do both and sometimes you can't, and the struggles of each of them and why they are probably more similar than you think. And then we'll talk about lifting heavy things and what it takes to truly get results in the weight room and what that intensity level looks like if we're trying to get stronger and build muscle. And then finally, we're going to do a little deep dive or mind dump on protein, everything protein, lean protein specifically. Want to talk about the differences between um, you know, things like sausage versus chicken breast, right? One is a lean protein, one is not. Why? What does it mean to be lean? What does it, what are some options for lean protein and how to get enough of it? So, those are some of the topics we're going to talk about today. Hopefully, that is some useful information in there and you get some tidbits that you can start using today in your health and fitness journey. Okay, let's dig in a little bit. Consistency. Why is it so important? Why are my clients tired of hearing me say consistency, consistency, consistency? So I think we all know to lose weight, we need to eat less calories and exercise more, meaning we burn more calories. So at the end of the day, if we burn more calories than we eat, we will have to dip into our fat reserves. So the fat that we store in our body is just stored energy. When we don't eat enough food to supply the body with the energy it needs, we dip into those fat stores, we use them, we burn them, and we will lose weight if we consistently stay in that calorie deficit, meaning that we are, again, burning more calories than we consume per day. So we all, I think, can agree on that. I don't think anybody's going to argue that that's how we lose fat, right? We burn more calories than we consume. The intricacies get are when and how and for how long do we need to be in a calorie deficit? How do we get into that calorie deficit? What diet are we using? Are we going keto? Are we completely getting rid of carbohydrates? Are we going low carb? Are we going low fat? Are we tracking macros? Are we tracking calories? Are we tracking portions? There's lots and lots and lots of different ways to diet, to restrict your food intake so that way you are consuming less calories per day. But every diet works the same way. It's by consuming less calories per day and by then increasing the energy outside of the equation, hopefully with resistance training, cardio, exercise, steps, etc. But regardless of which method you decide to use, you have to be consistent for a long enough period of time to allow the method to actually work, right? So being in a calorie deficit for a day or 2 days or 3 days, or maybe even a full week might not be long enough to start to see the results you're looking for. You have to force your body to adapt. It doesn't just give up fat or build muscle or improve fitness just because you think about it or just because you want it to happen. You have to do something. You have to force your body to make those adaptations. So, in regards of fat loss, you have to deprive your body of a certain amount of calories to force it to dip into those fat reserves. It's an energy balance equation. I know I already said that, but that's really what it comes down to is can you be consistently in a calorie deficit for a long enough period of time to see results? That's where I think people get into trouble. They pick a method, they say go keto, and they are sticking to it for the first week, and maybe they see a bunch of weight loss. Boom, this is great. I'm motivated. I see the results. It's then can stay consistent with that diet, with that strategy to continue to see the results. I would say, or I would argue that a lot of diets are so restrictive that they make it very hard to be consistent on a long enough period of time to continue to see results. I'm going to continue with the conversation around keto because that's kind of what I've chosen um, for the method that we're talking about here. But again, don't think I'm isolating or picking on keto. I think this same message is going to be true with most diets. They are hard. It is hard to restrict your calories. It's hard to say no to donuts, pizza, chicken fingers, french fries, all these certain foods that are super calorie dense and that are going to make it more difficult for you to be in a calorie deficit. So it's consistency over time. Again, with keto, I think it's really hard. Okay, we're going to give up all of my carbohydrates, or the majority of carbohydrates. I don't remember the stats off the top of my head. I've different keto methods allow different amounts of carbohydrates, and are you actually testing and are you in ketosis, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of intricacies there. I don't want to go into the pros and cons of keto itself, but just thinking through, I give up an entire food group, aka carbohydrates. So now I'm left with only eating protein and fat. I completely got rid of the third macronutrient of carbohydrates. Well, let's start thinking about what foods have carbohydrates in them. So potatoes, rice, bread, pasta, candy, any type of dessert, or most types of desserts, right? Yes. Can you make a keto friendly dessert? Absolutely. But you have to go out of your way to find them. You have to go out of your way to make them. Are they going to be as delicious as the non keto friendly versions? I don't think so. Um, the reason that I'm saying all this though is just because it's hard. No diet that you pick is going to be easy. It's all going to be hard. So the moral of my story, I guess, or my rant is I would like you, or I would recommend pick a diet strategy, method, whatever we want to call it, that fits your lifestyle and that you can do consistently for a long enough period of time to see the results you're looking for. Those results that you're looking for are probably going to take a minimum, and emphasize this, a minimum of 3 to 6 months. And that's probably just going to be the beginning of your journey. That's going to be the beginning of your results. 3 to 6 months is the longest period of time that I would probably allow a client to be on a restrictive diet, fat loss phase before sending them or going more into a reverse diet or living at maintenance calories for a period of time to allow the negative effects of dieting, such as adaptive thermogenesis, or your metabolism slowing down, or just that extreme restrictive mindset. Those types of things are negative, or the negatives that come along with dieting. But those are the things that you need to be able to work through and be able to um, do on a consistent basis to see the results. So again, it's really not, doesn't matter what diet you pick, they're all going to be hard in the short term, but they're all going to get you to your result as long as you can stay consistent for a long enough period of time to see the result. So how can we look at this? How can we switch the mindset around dieting? Well, I think a key thing to remember is that a diet, um, or a I don't even let's not call it a diet. Let's call it a fat loss phase. So you're going through a phase of your life where you're actively trying to lose fat. You've accumulated too much. You're unhealthy. You're unhappy with the way your body looks and feels. You want to lose fat. So we're going to go into a fat loss phase. Again, that phase is going to need to last probably, you know, if it's a mini cut and you don't have a lot of weight to lose, maybe you can do that in, 4 to 8 weeks. But I think for most of you, especially if this is your first rodeo, and first time truly dedicating some time and effort to losing fat, I think you're looking at least a 3 to 6 month journey, and that journey needs to be as consistent as possible. So how can we make that fat loss phase consistent? Well, I think you have to have the mindset of delayed gratification. You have to understand that all the sacrifices, all the little things that you're doing on a consistent basis over that fat loss phase is only temporary. You don't need to be in a calorie deficit for the rest of your life. That's not how fat loss works, right? We only need to be in that deficit. We only need to be burning more calories than we're consuming when we're in an active fat loss phase and we're trying to lose weight. But once we have delayed that gratification, we have put in the hard work, we've said no to the donuts for the 3 to 6 months. And that's, not even the mindset that I want you to think about is not always restricting that donut, but being on a consistent basis of being in a calorie deficit for that 3 to 6 months. And then you get to reverse diet and you get to add calories back in. So wherever you end your fat loss phase, I'm just going to make up some numbers. Let's say you're ending your fat loss phase on your low days, your low calories are, I'm going to say 1300. That if you're seeing, 1 to 2 pound weight loss at that amount of calories, that tells me that you're roughly in a 500 calorie deficit per day, and it's going to equal a 1 to 2 pound weight loss at the end of the week. So if we're consistently there, the good news is you get to add in at least 500 calories to your diet when we get back to maintenance or as we reverse diet. So you don't have to live in that deficit. That's just where you need to be while you're trying to lose fat. Once the fat loss phase is over and it's time to either go into a maintenance phase or you are reverse dieting, then we slowly add calories back in. And my hope with my clients is that while we're in that fat loss phase, yes, your metabolism is going to slow down a little bit. That's part of the process. Unfortunately, as we restrict calories, our body's going to react to that, and it's going to modify your metabolism to slow down a little bit. We're going to do things to combat that during my process, but that is going to happen. But you got to understand that's temporary as well. So that way, as we add calories back in, your metabolism is going to go back up. But during that fat loss phase, especially if this is your first one and you're untrained, we can really put a lot of time and effort into building muscle during that fat loss phase. So we're building muscle. we are then I'm talking after the calorie deficit. We've built all this muscle during the fat loss phase. We're now adding calories back in. Our metabolism's taking off. Honestly, I think most of my clients are able to then add more than 500 calories back to their diet, right? So now we've added, we slowly increase your calories back up. We get you to this maintenance level where you're not gaining any weight, but you can continue to eat more and more food. That's the goal, right? We have to understand that fat loss phases are you have to delay the gratification, understanding that making the hard choice now is going to allow you to get to your results, and then you don't have to make that hard choice as often anymore because you've gotten to your goal, and now we're able to put calories back into your diet, and we find where happy is for you. Where is weight neutral for you? How many calories can I eat? And I want to maximize the amount of calories that you can eat and live at and be successful and not gain weight, right? That's the goal. So we do a fat loss phase, we lose all the fat we don't want, and then we add food back in and we see how much food can we eat and not gain weight. That's the coolest thing. So, but you have to have that mindset throughout the process that yes, this might suck today. Not eating the donuts that are in the break room might be hard and might suck. But once this phase is over, you're going to be able to add those calories back in. And not saying that, yeah, you're going to be able to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want and not gain weight. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying if you strategically lose weight, and do it in a healthy way, slowly, while you're focusing on protein and muscle, once you are done with that fat loss phase and you reverse diet or go back up to maintenance, you're going to be able to eat a ton of food. You're going to be crazy amounts of food that you didn't even think you could ever be able to eat, and still not gain weight. That's the cool part of this process. So having that mindset of delayed gratification and being able to make the hard decision now and knowing that later those decisions are going to be less hard and the results are going to be there. That's the success that you're going to see, or what you need to do to see the success that you want. Um, so yeah, that's kind of why consistency is so important. It's being able to do the right things over and over again for a long enough period of time to see your results. So yeah, then let's continue this conversation, right? Okay, Adam. Well, that sounds great. It's easier said than done, right? Okay, I need to make these hard decisions. Well, everybody has hard decisions. Um, so a couple things, I guess, to think about as you're making these hard decisions, or how, I guess, okay, here, let me rephrase that. How can we make the hard things easy, and maybe not easy, but easier, right? How can we make the hard decisions easier? Because I don't think they're ever going to be easy, right? I don't think anybody's ever going to be, absolutely favorite food in the world is pizza, and then being able to say no to pizza is ever going to be easy, right? Like we might be able to put systems and methods in place to make it easier, but it's probably never going to be easy. That being said, you got to make the hard things easier. First thing I would say is start your day with hard things. The morning time, hopefully, after you wake up from a solid 7, well, we'll even give you a little wiggle room, 6 to 8 hour restful sleep. We wake up, we're refreshed. We are more likely to be able to do the hard things in the morning when we don't have the mental fatigue of all the decision making throughout the day, right? As you go throughout your day, you are accumulating fatigue, mental fatigue. You have to think, you have to make decisions constantly throughout the day. The later in the day, the more difficult it is to make hard decisions because your brain is fried. You don't have the emotional capacity, the energy to continue to make these hard decisions. That's why, well, one, it's really, really important that you have habits and rituals and routines. So that way you don't even have to think about making the decision. You just do it because that's what you do every day, every morning. Again, I think going back to my original thought, starting your day with those hard things is really important, right? So getting starting your day with the appropriate amount of calories in your breakfast, right? So for example, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but protein. Not most people, most of my clients come to me not eating enough protein per day, and it's really challenging for them to get up to the level that I want them to be at. The easiest way to do that to be successful is to start your day with a lot of protein, right? So if you have to hit 100 and let's say 120 grams of protein per day, and you eat 3 meals, so that's roughly 40 grams of protein per meal, right? So you got to start your day with 40 grams of protein. So if your breakfast doesn't have 40 grams in it and it only has 10, 15, 20, you're 20 grams behind the 8 ball already, right? We need you to then you're basically playing catch up the rest of the day, and that makes it really hard. So start your day with the hard things. Start your day with that protein. If you hate to exercise, get up and exercise first thing in the morning. Get it out of the way. Do the hard thing first. One, you're going to feel accomplished. You're already done with a hard thing. You feel great. You got to hit a dopamine. You're ready to go for the rest of the day. And you don't have to wait until the end of the day. You're getting off work and you have to choose between going home and hanging out with your family or going to the gym, and you've already had a bad day. You're exhausted. Your boss was riding you all day. You missed a deadline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is going to be a lot harder decision to go to the gym after work after a hard day than if you had just woken up and your routine is going to the gym first thing in the morning, right? Yeah. So make the hard thing easier by trying to load up the front half of your day with the hard things that you probably don't want to do. Recognize what those things are and front load your day with them. Try to get them done earlier in the day. Some other things to think about on making the hard thing easy. I would say food prepping is another huge part of making food choices easier, right? So if you plan a day, let's just say, for example, Sundays are your food prep day. To make that easier, what you would need to do is plan your food prep. So when I say plan your food prep, one, you need to have a plan of what you're going to make. That's probably the first thing. What food am I going to prep for this week? What meals do I want to make? All right, once we have the meals decided, then we need to have the ingredients. So that means we need to make a shopping list. We need to go to the grocery store. Once we then have the food, the ingredients, we know what we want to make, then we have to have a time set aside in our calendar to actually make that food and prep it. Once we have the food made and prepped, we need to have containers to store the food in. So we need to have Tupperware. We need to have enough Tupperware to have enough room for the food that we are preparing. And then we need to have enough room in the refrigerator to store the food that we stored in the Tupperware containers that we've prepped and planned and made. Then we need to have that available to us for lunch on the days that we plan to eat those, or whatever meal it is. Maybe it's not lunch, maybe it's dinner. But by the act of planning your meals, going to the grocery store, and prepping your food, now you have a well-balanced, nutritious, healthful meal prepped in a container and ready to go to work with you. All you have to do is get it out of the fridge at work, pop it in the microwave, and eat it. That then becomes easier because it's already prepped, planned, and ready to go. That choice to eat that meal is way easier than, okay, it's lunchtime. What am I going to eat? I have 10 minutes to find something and put it in my mouth, what do you think you're going to eat? Of course, you're going to go to McDonald's and get that happy, or not the happy meal. You're going to get that value meal, and you're going to crush chicken nuggets and French fries. That's going to have probably, you know, 1,000 calories, maybe more. I'm just ballparking. Um, Compared to your, again, well, and let's go a little bit. Let's dig a little bit deeper. So now, not only do you have a ton of calories in that meal, you have no nutritional value. The protein that is you're getting at McDonald's probably is not a lean protein. It's not a quality source. And the amount of protein that you're getting in that meal is probably pretty low. Depends what you're getting, right? Can you get some protein? Sure. Definitely don't think it's lean. I definitely don't think it's a good source of protein. But then beyond that, you're just getting a ton of fat, really bad fats, deep fried fats that are probably some type of oil that has been reused way too many times, and is just going to drive inflammation, cholesterol, bad things. So we got no nutrition, we got no micronutrients, we got bad fats, we got not great protein source, and then a ton of carbohydrates, which carbs aren't bad, but again, we're not really getting a lot of nutritional value from that meal, and we're getting a ton of calories. Compare that to the meal prep where we're getting veggies, we're getting micronutrients, we're getting a well-balanced meal of fats, carbs, and proteins. We're getting a lean protein source that is going to help us stay satiated, feeling full. It's going to help us recover from the strength training that we're doing, what's going to help us build muscle. It's setting us up for success. So again, sorry, that was a kind of tangent there on food, but that's how you make the easy or the hard choices easier. It's planning, it's prepping, it's having the food available to you so that that choice is the easy choice. Same thing with snacking. I think most people enjoy eating fruits as a snack. Most fruit is delicious. It's just the availability of it that I think doesn't allow us to eat it as often as we should. We don't have it prepped and ready to go. So again, we're talking about snacking. It's a late night. Maybe it's 8 o'clock at night, and you just have this sweet tooth urge, and you need something to eat. And you have two choices, right? Or you in my mind, you have a couple choices. You have fruit, which would be great. It's delicious. It's sweet. It's gonna hopefully combat that sugary craving that you might have. Or you have the very easy accessible chips, candy, fruit snacks, already packaged, right? All you got to do is open up the package and pop it in your mouth. Compare that to, all right, I want some fruit. Well, all right, I'm going to eat, let's say, I don't know, some raspberries and strawberries. Okay, well, I got to get them out of the refrigerator. Well, one, I have to have them. I have to have them on hand. I have to have them fresh, right? And if I didn't eat them, they could go bad. They go stale, or they rot. They have a shelf life, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you have to have the food. It has to be not rotten, and then you have to clean it, and then you have to probably cut the stems off, maybe slice it into some bite-sized pieces, put it into a container, and then eat it, right? This is a little bit of an exaggeration. Obviously, that doesn't sound that hard, but really it is in that situation when you're in the heat of the moment and you have to choose between prepping and getting this fruit ready to eat or just grabbing the fruit snacks. It's hard to make the decision to actually eat the fruit, right? So again, making it easier. Make sure you have fruit on hand. Make sure that it's maybe clean it and prep it and have it weighed out into portioned containers, just like we would do for food prep, right? You know exactly, okay, this is 100 calories of strawberries. Boom, you eat it, you log it, or you track it, or whatever method you're using for portion control. It's already planned out. So again, it's planning ahead of time. So as much time consuming or as hard as it is to plan and prep, by setting aside that time and putting the effort into planning and prepping, it then makes those hard choices easier down the road. So having this food available, having it prepped, having it planned will allow you to say no to the easy fruit snack, chips, donuts, McDonald's, because you have an alternative choice that's already there. It's available. It's convenient. That's what it comes down to. Making good food choices convenient is going to set you up for long-term success. Cool. So, next topic, fat loss versus building muscle. I kind of went into this already on my previous rant, but fat loss and I would argue fat loss is equally as hard as weight gain or muscle building in certain situations. So if you are overweight, over fat, and trying to lose weight, and you've tried and tried, and you struggle with saying no to certain foods and sticking to your diet and being consistent, I think that is hard. I 100% agree. But I think for the person who's on the flip side of that and has always been extremely small, scrawny, under muscled, and struggle to build muscle and gain weight, I truly think it's equally as hard for both of those situations. If you've ever tried to force feed yourself, so restricting calories and saying no to food is hard. I 100% agree. But on the flip side of that, trying to purposefully gain weight and eat enough calories is equally as hard. You have to force feed yourself, 3,000, 3,500, sometimes up to 4,000 calories, especially some of these big guys who are bodybuilding and that is their life and that is their career. I mean, the amount of calories these guys have to eat to be that big and to maintain that amount of muscle mass is hard. So again, I want you to understand that both sides of the coin is difficult, but it's possible. And I think that's the coolest part about the human body is its adaptability. I think it's super cool that we can run a fat loss phase and lose a bunch of unnecessary fat. And then we can run a muscle building phase and build this ridiculous amount of muscle. And you're just this adaptable meat suit, right? We have bone and then we have muscle and then we have all these organs and things inside. And by manipulating certain variables such as exercise and nutrition, we can modify our bodies to do amazing things, to get stronger, to build muscle, to become more physically fit, to grow new capillaries, increase mitochondria, have our heart become more efficient, neurologically being able to recruit more motor units. There's just so many cool physiological adaptations that we know how to program the variables to make or force the body to adapt and produce these results. But there is a level of intensity and effort that you need to bring as the client or as the participant to actually force the body to adapt, right? So we talked about it with fat loss, and you need to be consistently in a calorie deficit to force the body to utilize the fat stores as you are in a deficit and then burn that fat. The same is true when we're trying to build muscle. You have to force the body to adapt. It's not going to, just because you picked up 20-pound dumbbell and went through some curls, that's not how we build muscle. You have to pick up an appropriate amount of weight that produces enough mechanical tension to create a signal to the body to then lay down new muscle, to produce protein, or to go through protein synthesis and lay down or build more muscle. The rant here is about intensity and your ability to grind and truly get close to failure. Again, you have to force the body to adapt. You have to force it to get stronger. You have to force it to lay down new muscle to see these results that you're looking for. So, men and women, stop picking up the same dumbbell and doing the same exercise for the same number of reps and the same number of sets week after week after week, and getting frustrated with why you're not seeing results. You have to add more weight to the bar. You have to overload the muscle. The only way to continue to see consistent results with building muscle is by overloading the tissue progressively week to week. So that can be, I did more sets. So instead of 3 sets of 10, maybe I did 4 sets of 10 the next week. That would be an overload. Maybe I did more reps. Maybe instead of 3 sets of 10, I was able to do 3 sets of 12 at the same weight. That would be an overload. Maybe I add more weight to the bar. So I did 3 sets of 10 at 50 pounds in week 1. Week 2, I'm doing 55 pounds. There's multiple ways to increase the intensity of your workouts, but something has to increase. There has to be an overload each week to continue to see results. Range of motion is another great example, right? So maybe you're doing a split squat and you can't control the full range of motion up and down. And maybe you're only doing, maybe you're limiting your range of motion to like a halfway down. So you do that for a week. And then the next week, maybe you go 3/4 of the way down. And then the next week you go down all the way. That's also an overload. So there's lots of different ways to overload the system, but it has to be overloaded. It has to be progressively in a progressive fashion to consistently see results and create more mechanical tension and create that signal to lay down new muscle. So that being said, don't be soft. I guess that's the word I'm going to use. I was going to use a different word, but I'm going to keep it PG. And I'm going to say, don't be soft. Lift heavy things. You can lift heavy things. You can lift heavier things than you think. I think that, again, I want to pick on the females, and it's not true, because it's men too, especially untrained men who are just starting to get into the weight room. There's part of the process is learning how to grind, is learning how to, it's learning what your body can truly do. It's your ability to look at a dumbbell and be like, yup, I can do that. And then actually creating enough tension and compression in your body to then push that weight and complete the reps and the sets. It's a skill, and it's a skill that is definitely learnable, right? So I'll give you an example. This is a trick that a lot of training partners will play on each other, right? So you're working close to your rep failure. You're getting ready to max out maybe, and your training partner, it looks away and doesn't see what you're doing. And so you slide on, let's say, 10 pounds on each side of the barbell. We're doing a bench press. You're trying to hit 225 for the first time, and your training partner slides on an extra 10 pounds on each side. So the bar is actually 245, but you have no idea about it. You didn't see him do it. You think in your head that bar weighs 225 pounds. You get under the bar, you unrack it, you get hyped up, and you crush 3 reps at 225, or what you thought was 225, but it was actually 245. And you did it. And you did it because you had the mindset that it was 225 and that you were going to crush it. And you had no idea that that extra 20 pounds was on there. But you still did it because you didn't know. And it's those situations. And there's research that people have run this study and done this. And it's a perceived effort, right? It's your perception of what you can do. You can do more than you think you can do. I promise. And again, a lot of this conversation I'm gearing towards to my females, because I think it's this, it's a mindset that females have more often than men, but I do think the men don't know how to push either. So don't think that I'm isolating you all. Guys, you suck at this too, right? Like, especially if you're new, you need to learn how to grind. You need to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Super, super important. One of my favorite sayings is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And it's so important. If you're picking up that same 20-pound dumbbell each week, doing every exercise with, 5, 10, 15, it doesn't matter what the weight is. Add more weight. I would challenge you each week. The rule that I give my clients is, if I tell you to do 3 sets of 10 and you're able to do all 3 sets of 10 with the weight, let's say you're using 20 pounds, next week, you got to go up to 25. And if you do all 3 sets of 10 that week, then the next week, you got to go up to 30. You got to continue to overload the tissue and push yourself and push your intensity if you want to continue to see muscle building results. So don't be soft, lift heavy things, push yourself. Cool. All right, last rant. Protein. Protein is super important. In my model, it is the most important macronutrient. Whenever I'm coaching my clients and we're coaching, or if we're tracking macros and we're tracking calories, usually I use the Chronometer app, and we're going to weigh and measure food and track calories. So when we're doing that, I tell my clients the 2 most important numbers are protein and total calories. Total calories is probably going to be number 1 if we want to see weight loss. Protein is going to be number 2. Excuse me. Protein is going to be number 2. So why is protein so important? Well, protein, 1, if we're just looking at as a food, protein is going to be the building block of muscle. So I need to have a minimal amount of protein to maximize protein synthesis and recovery from my resistance training. So we're going to we're going to focus on resistance training as a form of exercise in my model, because muscle burns calories and muscle is the look that we're going for, right? If we want to have that lean, fit, toned look, muscle building is how we do that. So we have to have protein, which is the building block of muscle, to see the building effects. So protein, muscle building. Protein also satiating. It's super filling. Try to eat 150 grams of protein in a day. That's a lot of protein. You're going to feel full. You're not going to really be that hungry for other food groups because you're filling up on protein. Protein also sits in your stomach longer, meaning it takes a long time to digest it and break it down. And that's going to help you stay feeling full longer, right? So if it takes, 2 hours to break down protein compared to maybe 10 minutes on some type of other macronutrient, fats, carbs, or some type of highly processed, calorie dense, simple sugar food, that's going to go into your bloodstream immediately and it's gone and you're hungry again, right? So protein, satiating. So that also is a indicator that there's a high thermic effect of protein, right? So yes, it takes longer to digest. It sits in your stomach. It helps you stay feeling full and satiated. Well, that also means that increased amount of time it takes to break down and digest also costs more energy. So it actually costs you energy to get the energy out of protein. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you've ever heard of somebody say calories, a calorie is a calorie, or calories not a calorie, well, this is what they're talking about. So a calorie is not a calorie, right? So again, same example. The example I always give is, a piece of steak compared to Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid's liquid sugar. You literally drink it. There's no need to digest it or break it. Well, you obviously have to digest it, but there's not really a breakdown. It literally absorbed the sugar. The glucose is literally absorbed right into your bloodstream. There's a very minimal digestive process. Boom, it's there, it's used, it's gone. You're hungry again, right? Compare that to protein that you then you actually have to break it down. There's a process, there's digestion, there's energy that is utilized to then pull the energy out and put it into the bloodstream. So it's not a 1-for-1 ratio, right? So it costs energy to burn energy when we have a higher thermic effect of food. So protein has a very high thermic effect. So that's another reason we're going to go after it. So yeah, we talked about protein synthesis, we talked about satiation, we talked about the thermic effect of food. Those are probably the 3 biggest reasons that protein is important to me. So how do we get enough protein, and how much protein should we be getting? Well, let's start with how much should we be getting. I guess what I would recommend, or what I recommend to my clients, is a minimal amount of protein that I want my clients to be consuming on a day would be 0.6 grams times your body weight in pounds. That can go, I usually start my clients around 0.6 to 0.8, and you could go all the way up to a 1 gram or even a little bit more. I rarely go above 1 gram, but you can go a little bit higher than that per pound of body weight. So that's where you want to start. How do we get that amount in? Well, I think it's really important to start with a high protein breakfast. If you're starting your day with 5, 10, 15 grams of protein, that's not enough. You're going to be behind the 8 ball starting at the beginning of the day, and then you're going to be ending the day, looking at your macros and seeing that you're, 40 grams under where you need to be for protein at 8 o'clock at night. And your options are going to be a protein shake or a protein shake. So start the day early, get ahead of it. And, I would aim for a minimum of 30 to 40 grams of protein in your breakfast to start the day. So start early. My favorite thing to do is super shakes. I absolutely love a super shake for breakfast. I think it's the most convenient thing to do, and the easiest way to start your day with a high protein. Plus, it's super easy to add your vegetables as well as manipulate the portions to either or to match your goals, right? Are you trying to gain weight, lose weight, or are you in maintenance? So, for example, my favorite super shake that I drink just about every morning is chocolate peanut butter banana. So I use chocolate, protein powder, try to use an all natural peanut butter, and then I use banana, obviously, and then I add a bunch of healthy stuff. So some flaxseed, chia seeds, add some psyllium husk fiber for some extra fiber. I'm adding spinach for the actual vegetable part of it. I'm adding oats as a whole grain, as well as my carbohydrate or part of my carbohydrates to then be able to manipulate. So for me, if I'm trying to gain weight, I'm going to add more peanut butter and I'm going to add more oats to the smoothie to increase my calorie intake. And then once I'm ready to start a fat loss phase or a mini cut or some type of weight loss phase, then I just take those out. I have a smaller portion of peanut butter, and I either completely get rid of the oats or I lessen it. So maybe I'm doing a cup of oats and I only go down to a half cup of oats, right? Very easy then to manipulate the portions and the size of my food in that super shake to match my goals at the time. But super shakes are so good to get your vegetables in. You can mask the flavor of them, right? So you can throw in a ton of spinach, and the peanut butter and the chocolate is going to mask that flavor that you're not even going to taste it. So if you struggle to get in your protein, if you struggle to get in enough servings of vegetables per day, super shakes are a great way to do that. And then, beyond that, the best way to get your protein. So I guess the questions that I always get are, what are good high protein meals? And it's like a trick question. I search for this as well. Like, I'm like, okay, I gotta be missing something. Like I see all these recipes, I see all this marketing towards high protein this and high protein that. But then when you really come down to it and you start to look at what these ingredients are and how we can get protein, I truly think it comes down to two sources. You either have animal protein, so you're eating some type of meat, or you have a supplement. So a whey protein or some type of plant-based protein powder. Those are really your options. So if you want to not just drink a protein shake, which I think is the easiest, right? So protein shakes, you get a little bit of fats and carbs, but very minimal. It's mostly just protein. So that's super easy to hit your protein macros with just a shake. But I understand that some people don't like the taste of protein powder, and I get it. It's not my favorite thing. It's just something you it's one of those necessary evils that you just do because you have to do it, even though it's a hard thing. But that being said, there are some ways to mask the flavor of protein powder as well, right? So you can mix it in something else. You can mix it with some yogurt, right? You can mix it in Greek yogurt. But most of these high protein snack foods that you're seeing are just traditional snack foods that you're replacing certain ingredients with a lower calorie, low fat, low carb version, and then adding protein powder. You're adding protein supplementation. So again, it really just comes back to eat animal protein or supplement. Or if you are vegetarian and trying to get away from supplements, you're looking at a lot of beans and lentils and those types of higher protein plant sources. That's doable. You can. It's more difficult. I would say to get enough protein as a plant-based eater, but it's doable. That being said, I would say, or I will want to say, or I'm going to say that you have to be careful with plant-based proteins. They aren't what we call a complete protein. They don't have all of the essential amino acids that we need. So essential amino acids means that our bodies cannot make these certain amino acids. So amino acids are proteins. There are a certain variety of them that we cannot make, and we need to eat in our diet to maximize protein synthesis as well as all the other benefits of protein. So some plant-based proteins don't have or are not a complete protein and don't get you all of those. So you do need to be careful and make sure that you're getting complete protein sources and getting all of your essential amino acids. Easiest way, again, to do that, in my opinion, is to eat animal protein. Animal protein is a complete protein source. Whey protein is a complete protein source. But again, some of these plant-based proteins are not, so you do need to be careful. And I would definitely recommend looking at your ingredients, or not necessarily ingredients, but looking at what amino acid profile they have available. Sweet. So I think that was all I wanted to cover today. I appreciate y'all tuning in and listening to episode 2. Apologize that it took a little while to get the next episode out. Had my second total health transformation launch. Went really, really well, but it was right in the middle of when I should have been recording the episode 2. So got a little bit busy and sidetracked and not able to record last time. But now that launch is over and I am back into a more consistent routine, hoping to be able to get more of these episodes out. So if you have any questions or topics or ideas for the podcast, feel free to reach out and let me know. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or somebody in your network that you feel like would benefit from hearing it. And until next time, this was the Total Health and Fitness Podcast.